This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel. As promised, this is the one that helps make the first one from tonight make sense. If you haven't already checked out the complicated math that is the Oilers opening night roster, well, you missed out because the lineup is a complicated one for sure, and that is where we get to this right here. This is why I'm saying it's complicated. Go back to 2 days ago. Bob Stauffer, something I should have talked about yesterday, tweets out his projected lines. RNH, McDavid, Kassian, Cahoon, Draisaitl, Yamamoto, Ennis, Turris, Puljujarvi, Neal, Haas, Archibald, Nygaard, Kara, Chase on Russell on that fifth line taxi squad situation, whatever you want to call it. That's where they find themselves, is in kind of no man's land, according to Bob Stauffer. That's his idea. He asks for your thoughts in the tweet, and then you see there's 203 replies to it. Bob Stauffer, of course, the kind of voice of what you need to know when it comes to the Oilers, whether it be on Oilers Now or as the color guy on 6:30 Ched to Jack Michaels when they're doing the play-by-play for our hockey games that we love so much. So why does any of that matter? Well, that matters because this is also a tweet from Bob Stauffer, tweeted out 8 hours ago from 6:43 p.m. on December 16th. This is several of Oilers' signed prospects are headed back from Europe. Here's the list of who is staying in Europe. So who won't be at camp for the Oilers come whenever it opens, January 3rd, January 2nd, January 5th, January 10th, whenever it opens. Kirill Maximov, Raphael Lavoie, Dmitry Samorukov, Philip Berglund, Philip Kemp, and Olivier Rodrigue. So we're sticking with the goalies we got. We've got 5 of them available. Between Koskinen, you've got Smith, you've got Forsberg, you got Skinner, and you got Wells. That's your 5. You can choose 3 or 4 out of that, however you want to fancy that up there, my friends. Now, the big one on this name list is, of course, Raphael Lavoie. We never had full confirmation if he was staying or coming home. He is staying, so get rid of him out of the hard equations that are kind of the roster math. That, I mean, realistically, that one figures. I don't even think he was in contention anyway. He'll be recalled from the loan to play on Bakersfield should they have a season. Philip Kemp, we knew he was staying. Philip Berglund, I believe we also knew he was staying. And Kirill Maximov and Dmitry Samorukov, we knew they were staying. So again, that leaves this hard, complicated roster math still up in the air, right? None of these guys really factored into complicating either the roster or the opening night lineup too much. But then you get back to Bob Stauffer's opening night lineup projections. He doesn't say opening night, but I imagine if you're talking about lines, you're talking about rolling them out on opening night. And yeah, this is where it is really complicated because number one thing we kind of learned rumblings of this whole December is the December 23rd date is very important to Ken Holland for one reason. He wants his guys back in Edmonton to get into game shape as soon and as quickly as possible. There are rumblings out there, if you go with corners of social media, that Ken Holland was not too impressed with the shape some of his players came back in. And I'm not pointing fingers here because, you know, right, these guys are dads, these guys are family members, these guys have lives outside of hockey, and it's summertime. I mean, did anyone see the shape I was in the summer? My goodness, I couldn't have even worked a full day in the summer, yet I did, but I wasn't mentally fully there or anything. And we're expecting these guys, after taking March through July 15th off, to be pro hockey players and win a Stanley Cup. Well, it's bound to happen that some of them came back out of game shape, and that is, of course, the rumblings we've heard on social media explained. So RNH, McDavid, Kassian, Cahoon, Draisaitl, Yamamoto, Ennis, Turris, Puljujarvi, Neal, Haas, Archibald. Who says no? This seems like a pretty winning opening night lineup. And again, if you're going to have Chase on out, you have to have Neal in. And if you're going to have Chase on in, you're going to have Neal out. That's just the way it works. Because all in all, you have to have Josh Archibald in the lineup to kill penalties, right? Where in this do you have penalty killers that are going to get the job done for you? Turris is obviously one, Haas is one, Archibald's one, and RNH is one. Bingo, bango. You've solved your 4 penalty killers within this lineup. Easy is as easy does. We don't have to ask questions. But the issue being, is, are you really going to use Kyle Turris, who's on the back half of his career as a penalty killer? I don't know how much time he's killed in penalties in the past several years, but that's what a third line centerman does, or that's what Riley Sheahan did for us last year, so that is what it is. You're not going to have Neal killing penalties. You're not going to have Puljujärvi killing penalties. You might have McDavid Draisaitl spend some time. You're not going to have Zach Kassian doing it. RNH is going to do it. Is Dominic Cahoon a guy that could do it? Possibly. But are you really going to send out your new acquisition just to give him short-handed ice time, even though he's raking in top 6 ice time? I don't know. And, of course, well, on the fourth line, Nygaard, probably a guy you could get some penalty killing out of, like Josh Archibald Light if you train him right. Drew Jarkera, though, he's a guy that is 100% a penalty killer for this Oilers squad, and a rather effective one alongside Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. So why wouldn't you have him in the lineup? Alex Chiasson, especially on the power play. Big body in the lineup. Heck yeah, that's what we want. Patrick Russell, he's a guy. That's the accurate summary of Patrick Russell. He's a guy. He's a guy that plays hockey for the Edmonton Oilers. You read anything more into him, you're reading too much. End of day. So realistically, this 16 crew men, guys, roster lineup, whatever you want to call it, well, that's a lot of complication. But right, where in this do you find Alan Quine? Where in this do you find Seth Griffith, Joe Gambardella, Adam Cracknell? You've got Tyler Benson, Cooper Marody, Ryan McLeod, right? These are guys not listed on here as of yet, and they are all guys that have either been playing pro hockey or have been in hockey long enough to be worthy of a conversation somewhere around those 2 to 3 open roster spots, or else push guys who are not in those roster spots, i.e. that fifth line you see on your screen of Nygaard, Karachias on Russell, either out of their spot or up higher and make somebody else fall down. That's the questions we've got to ask ourselves, and that's where this really gets interesting, is when you know who's staying, it's now a matter of who's here and who's at camp, and there's a lot of good names at camp when it comes up to it, right? Obviously. Bob Stauffer didn't touch on the defense because that is a whole nother can of worms that you imagine if you had lineup plus defense plus goalies the way Bob Stauffer wants to line up, those mentions, those replies would probably be at over 500 by now on December 16th when this was tweeted out on December 14th. Absolute insanity it would be if you tried to basically shove an entire opening night lineup down Oilers fans' throats. There's no way possibly you could do it and not sit there and have your mentions on Twitter explode. Even if I were to do it, it would probably still get some traction. And I mean, I am the guy on Oilers Twitter who, might I say, probably gets the least amount of traction for the stuff I tweet. So, end of day. And of course, you know who I am on YouTube. So, how it doesn't translate, beyond me, but I appreciate everybody that does translate from YouTube to Twitter. But right, you get the game. Is you put out something questionable or something that is left to question, like Bob Stauffer did with the thoughts question mark at the end of his tweet on Twitter, you are going to get some traction no matter what, no matter who you are. And Bob Stauffer, being who he is, could very easily have blown up Oilers at internet Twitter yesterday or the day before or today, whatever those 203 mentions have come from, by simply tweeting an entire roster. The guy would have blown up the Twitter sphere for Oilers fans over the span of the past 3 days. He didn't. But still within that, you go back to what I had yesterday, or earlier today, with who's staying in Europe and who's not, and who is coming over from Europe and how that complicates the lineup. Let me tell you, to put this out is bold because camp is going to tell, and it is perhaps going to be one of the most intense battle-driven camps I have seen for the least amount of roster spots available on an Oilers roster since probably 2005, 2006, quite honestly, is the last time we had a set-in-stone roster to the degree that we do up front forwards-wise, and even to the degree we do on the defense and goaltending. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. Thank you so much for tuning in again tonight, taking time to get kind of the de facto part 2 to what I was talking about earlier today. I will be back tomorrow unless there's breaking news this evening, and then we will talk some more Oilers and hopefully maybe clock's ticking on a season announcement here this week tomorrow or Friday a season announcement. So I'll promise you this: if we don't have a season announcement tomorrow, there's a live stream on Dolynny TV tomorrow evening, as long as all goes according to plan at work. Ladies and gentlemen, I am up on out of here.